moving on, I went back and farmed up a Viryu capsule for the next room. I actually did end up running over 10 minutes in that last video. Nothing. The reason why I don't want to run over 10 minutes is because if I do, I have to splice the videos together. And the video splicing app seems to sort of reduce the quality, which it seemed like, yeah, on the second video, when I spliced the two videos together, the final video was like lower fidelity than if they had been separate. I accidentally created basically about a 2-minute video and a 10-minute video, so then I spliced them together and they ended up being almost 12 minutes, so I'll try to not do that this time. Let's see if we can get some health. Take a lot of hits to kill. There we go. That's a bit more like it. This has such a rich flavor, and yet it's not too rich either. The famous, or should I say infamous, tempura boss. In the US version, it's 3 different kinds of tempura. It's like shrimp tempura and an onion ring, and then like a shish kebab thing. But I think in the prototype version, it's just shrimp tempura. There we go. Nice. I should go back and get that other room. Whoops. Really? The other thing that's interesting about that tempura boss, nothing again, is that even though you only fight the one form of tempura in the Japanese prototype, if you sit idle at the title screen, it actually shows all 3 different versions, which proves that the graphics, at least for all 3, are present in the game, but maybe the programming hasn't been implemented for the other 2 forms of tempura. So, you know, this prototype does exhibit some signs of being maybe not 100% finished. There are a few things here and there that are not fully implemented, but it's definitely a near final, because it is very playable. You can play through to the end of the game. Beta version. reflecting the tail segments is definitely the way to go on those. Nice. Exactly what I needed. Off we go. Nothing. What are those empty rooms in this stage? It's actually a pretty interesting story about the development of this game if you're not familiar with it. This game officially only came out in the United States, even though a Japanese version, the one that I'm playing now, is out there. It wasn't an officially released version. They developed the Japanese version and then for some strange reason did not release it, and only instead released the US version. But they took the original Japanese version that had been developed but not released and then made changes to it for the US version. Mostly localization changes, because either there were elements present in the game that were considered too Japanese for American audiences, like there's some bosses or things that, you know, American people wouldn't understand, or they were afraid of copyright infringement. So, some bosses were changed due to the fear of copyright infringement. But then, so the US version ended up being the only one that was released. So for years, all you had was the censored version, if you will. But there were screenshots out there of the Japanese version from game magazines before it was released. So people were, like, intensely curious about playing the original version. This will be tough with low life, but we'll see what we can do. 1 plate, 2 plates. I did it! Exactly 10 plates. More on that in a minute. Anyway, let's try this again. Second try I'm doing much better, of course. I only do the really embarrassing ones when I'm filming. When I'm not filming, I do really awesome, of course. But now it's just a game of reflecting the plates. This is a good spot right here, because if you stand exactly right here, when the plates come down, sometimes you'll hit them at the right angle and sometimes you won't. It's just exact timing, really. But this boss is based on an old Japanese ghost story, if I remember right, about a samurai who had a very attractive, you could say maid or servant, whatever you want to call her, and he wanted to marry her, so he devised this scheme. You know, he had these kind of like china plates that were very valuable, and there were 10 of them, and he tricked her into thinking that she had lost one of them, and he said, well, you know, I'll forgive you if you'll marry me, and she refused, so he became very angry and he threw her in a well, and so then her ghost haunted him. So this is basically a reference to that Japanese ghost story. And hopefully the story won't go on much longer. There we go, that's what I'm talking about. I did it! Also, another difference in the prototype and the US version, the US version does not freeze so long when you beat a boss. Let's see if we can get on out of here and get to stage 3. Whoops. Alright, moving on. Of course, like I said, you always get the really embarrassing moments on film. This would be a good stopping point, though. We're about to go into level 3.